In the US, we've been conditioned to accept the government either just doing nothing to help the American people or actively working against the public, screwing over the public on behalf of the rich and corporations. And because of that, whenever any politician offers the American people scraps of the bare minimum of what they should be doing all along, it is met with a bunch of praise. And it puts the left a weird position, because then you have people who are corporatists who would just be flat out against whatever the crumbs and scraps being provided to the American people are. And then you have the people who just are desperate for any help, saying, oh my God, why can't you just be grateful at least at something you're complaining about, and you're still complaining. So it leaves little room for people like myself to criticize these scraps and say that they don't go anywhere near far enough and demand more. A good example of this is when in the CARES Act. The CARES Act was a giant corporate scam, a corporate heist to rob the American people and give even more money to the richest people and the richest corporations in this country. And simply because of the fact that they slipped in the crumbs, the scraps of a one-time $1,200 check and temporary means-tested unemployment benefits expansion, that put us in a weird position because people were desperate for the help. But in reality, nobody should have been happy with that. Nobody should have accepted that bullshit because it didn't really address any real problems. And here we are 8 months later, all that money is gone. And there is absolutely, there seems to be no chance of any more coming anytime soon. So people should not have accepted the CARES Act. People should have been critical of the CARES Act and demanded UBI, demanded Medicare for all, and demanded rent and debt cancellation, along with PPE for frontline workers and hazard pay for those same frontline workers. Those should have been red lines, and nobody should have accepted anything less than that, because here we are 8 months later, situation has been exacerbated. And again, like I said, that money's gone and there's seems to be no hope of any more coming anytime soon. 40 million people at risk of eviction. 40% of all small businesses going to close permanently in this country. 60 million people lost their job and have no income. So now we're in sort of a similar situation. Joe Biden is throwing out vague promises of student loan debt relief, and people are already just cheering for joy, jumping in the streets, singing hallelujah, and praising Joe Biden for this. And again, you have people like myself on the outside saying that maybe we should look at this more critically. Maybe there's some questions we should be asking here, like one, is Joe Biden actually going to do it? Because he's a notorious liar, as well as all the other presidents and president-elects who make all these grand promises of what they're going to do in office and end up doing none of those. So first question is he actually going to do this? Second question is, how much student loan debt relief is it going to be? How much is he going to means test this? Because the numbers have been bouncing around for a while now, and Joe Biden can't seem to get and the Democrats can't seem to get their story straight on exactly the amount they're going to forgive. So how much is also a question that people should be asking, and people should be asking if this is an adequate stimulus, I guess you can call it, to the economy during this unprecedented economic crisis. So I'm going to get into more of those questions after this, but you guys already know the deal. I'm trying to make this my main thing, but it needs to be sustainable. So if you guys can contribute to my Patreon, the link to my Patreon is in the About page on my YouTube channel. Also, I have the link to PayPal in the About page of my YouTube channel if you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution. So if you can go to the About page of my YouTube channel and pick a way to help support the show, I'd greatly appreciate it. Any amount helps. $2, $5, $10, any amount you can contribute. It really helps and it goes a long way. Now back to the story. So like I said, the first question is Joe Biden even going to do this at all? Easy to just say good shit that you know would get a round of applause, but are you going to actually back it up? Now, Joe Biden has a history of just flat out lying for a specific purpose, or just lying for no goddamn reason because there's really no meaningful result or from the lie. But he claimed that when he was a United States Senator and Nelson Mandela was in prison, he went to go see him and was arrested by the racist South African police. Again, just gratuitous lying. But on policy, he also lies about what he's going to do. He's said repeatedly when he was vice president under the Obama administration and he had large control over foreign policy, he was saying we're going to get out of the Afghanistan war. There's a tweet floating around on Twitter of Barack Obama saying Joe Biden said we will be out of Afghanistan by 2014. Now, this was a tweet that Obama tweeted maybe like 2013 or something like that, 2014. But did that happen? Clearly not. We're in Afghanistan 6 years later, almost 7 years later, the longest war in U.S. history. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001. And Joe Biden still has no plan to get us out. So he has made promises of shit that he's going to do on policy that he just. And like I said, this is just something that is commonplace among presidents. They say that they're going to do shit and they don't do it. Trump said he was going to end the wars. He didn't. Obama said he was going to end the wars when he was running. He was president for 8 years. He didn't. So I need people to stop taking politicians at their word when they say they're going to do something, because there's a very good chance that they won't do it. And especially considering this next fact, which is that Joe Biden has been all over the place when it comes to his plan to relieve student loan debt. During the campaign, during the primary, he was saying, oh, we're going to eliminate all student loan debt for any household making less than $125,000. Recently, Chuck Schumer made a tweet saying that, oh, we're going to work with Joe Biden to craft an executive order where he can eliminate $50,000 in student loan debt. I was like, okay, that's a little different, but that sounds good too. And then days after that, Joe Biden gives a speech on the economy, and he says that he's going to eliminate the first $10,000 in student loan debt that people have. So the number keeps dropping dramatically. And again, we're still 60 days from him even being inaugurated. So that number might be damn near zero if it even exists by the time he gets into the White House. And again, when he's there, there's no guarantee that he's actually going to do it. You eliminate thousands of dollars in student loan debt for people. 46 million people have outstanding student loans. That's a good thing. Any thousands of dollars you get rid of from that debt for people, that would help them. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to try to take that away. But it is a big difference from eliminating all of it to eliminating $50,000 of it to eliminating $10,000 of it. And what's next? Eliminating $5,000, eliminating $1,000. Those are giant differences in the amount. So let's try to actually pin down a real number before I even believe him. And one more point on the fact of why counterpoint or a piece of information that you should consider in deciding whether or not he's going to do it at all, or believing whether or not he's going to do it at all. Joe Biden and all his economic advisors, all these corporatist neoliberal goons, they went out of their way to create this student loan debt crisis. It was Joe Biden and the bankruptcy bill that made it harder to declare bankruptcy on student loan debt and made it so that you can never get rid of it in bankruptcy. That is the only debt in this country you can't get rid of through bankruptcy. Joe Biden did that on purpose. After he loosened the rules and made it easier for people to get student loans and rack up all this debt. Then he goes out and does the bankruptcy bill and makes it so that they can't get rid of it. Because why? He was getting paid. His biggest contributors were the financial institutions giving out the loans. So he created this crisis to begin with so that his donors can profit off it. So that's a giant caveat in that you should consider when he comes out and says, oh my God, look at the student loan debt. I'm going to forgive it for everybody. And then the next question is, say he actually does it and say he actually agrees to a set amount that he's going to get rid of in student loan debt. The question that we should be asking is this an adequate response to the unprecedented economic crisis that we find ourselves in today? Because even if before COVID, before this unprecedented economic depression, relieving student loan debt it would have been great. It would have been a huge boom to the economy, and it would help a lot of people out. But that was before COVID. The world has turned upside down in these last 8 months, and the economic situation for people has gotten multiple times worse. So relieving student loan debt even before COVID was not going to make everything all right in the economy. There would still have been insane amounts of wealth inequality. We would still have the issue of the for-profit health insurance system that we have that makes it unaffordable for people to get basic health care. There would have been, we still would have had low wages and slave wages in this country. So it would not have been some grand plan that would have fixed the economy even before COVID. And like I said, now we have to consider that the situation has gotten multiple times worse. So if this is what they're going to do and act like, oh, we saved the day, oh, we fixed this COVID economic crisis because we eliminated some student loan debt for people, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. No, I'm not having it. I don't think that's even comes close to what we should be doing. And then another thing to consider is Donald Trump suspended student loan payments since it started back in March. So it isn't, even if you did erase some of that debt, that isn't going to help people right now. People haven't been paying it for 8 months. So you getting rid of a couple $1,000s of their debt on a debt that they haven't even been paying for 8 months. Okay, people still couldn't put food on the table for 8 months. 60 million people lost their job. Half of them, more than half of them, were denied unemployment. And the other half of them, their unemployment expired. So you saying we're going to relieve $10,000 in this debt that they haven't even had to pay for 8 months doesn't really solve any problems for them. A lot of these people, 40 million people, are behind on rent. You eliminating a debt that they haven't even had to pay for 8 months is not going to help them because they'll still be evicted. And so what I'm worried that they're doing with this whole debate that they're trying to muck up over the student loan relief is I think they're trying to take people's eye off the ball and them focus on that so that they stop asking about stimulus checks. So people stop asking about monthly recurring direct payments to everybody in this country. Because if you notice, I haven't heard anything for Joe Biden in terms of doing recurring monthly payments or even just another stimulus check. So it looks like they're trying to pass off these crumbs and scraps as if it's some real attempt to solve this crisis, just like they did back in the CARES Act. But in reality, what they're doing isn't shit, and it doesn't come anywhere close to what needs to be done. What people really need to be talking about is the monthly recurring payments. And not only the monthly recurring payments going forward, but also make it retroactive. Imagine if people were getting $2,000 a month since March. That is 8 months. That is $16,000 that they were robbed of because the government decided to do the corporate scam CARES Act and give people a one-time $1,200 check. And this isn't just some lefty pie in the sky, oh, I think that the government should take care of everything type of thing. No, we are in a crisis. Every other modern country, every industrial country in the world realized this, and they have tried to meet it with an appropriate economic response. And the consensus seems to be, at the very least, let's have the government completely back the fund people's payroll so that they don't even miss a check from their job during this entire crisis. And this has been the consensus. In some places, they've done just the government writing monthly checks to people. Either way, they decided, hey, we're going to have to provide an actual reliable income for people during this crisis. A one-time check isn't going to do it. That's what every other country decided to do. We didn't do it because our government is run by oligarchs and corporatists and neoliberals who the biggest sin in politics is giving money to poor people. But they all believe in this trickle-down bullshit. Oh, let's give it all to the big businesses and then it'll work its way down the economy. That's the strategy that they decided to go with. That was bullshit before. People shouldn't have accepted it. And people now should be demanding that we get retroactive pay for what they tried to rob us of from the beginning. So retroactive monthly recurring payments and recurring payments at the very least for the duration of this crisis is what we should be talking about. But instead, Joe Biden is trying to take everybody's eye off the ball. Oh, look, maybe I'll get rid of some of your student loan debt. Maybe it's $50,000. Maybe it's $10,000. And people are out here jumping for joy and ignoring the calamity that we're seeing and not putting together that does not come close to where we need to be in terms of addressing this crisis. Like I said, 60 million people lost their job, have absolutely no income. That's not something that's just going to go away by itself. That's not something that's just going to fix itself if you relieve $10,000 in student loan debt for people. 40% of all small businesses in this country closing permanently. That's not something that's just going to go away by itself. 40 million people going to be evicted as soon as the moratorium's up. That's not something that's going to go away even if you give them one stimulus check, because guess what? They're behind on rent for months. And if you give them a $1,200 check, that ain't even going to cover one month's rent for a lot of people. So we are headed towards some type of, right now, the situation is bad. We've seen the lines. We've been seeing them for months of thousands and thousands of cars lining up outside of every major city, outside of food banks, because they have no other way to feed their family. And the situation is about to get dramatically worse when the evictions ramp up again, because the evictions are still going on. But when they ramp up again, it's going to get dramatically worse. And I think that, of course, the only way to get the necessary policies is through direct action. But like I was afraid of with the insidious nature of the Democrats is they get people to accept shit and to accept less than they deserve because people feel like, hey, these are the good guys. They're doing everything they can. If this is what they're offering, this must be the best that they can do. And people, I see people taking the bait with this vague bullshit promises of student loan debt relief. And I just wish it wasn't the case. And this is not to say that if he does do it, I won't give him any credit at all. I'll give him the bare minimum amount of credit because guess what? He did the bare minimum. So I'm not just going to act like this doesn't affect people in a real way. But again, it's the bare minimum. And I don't even know if he's going to do that.